Hi everybody, my name is Trina, and I am an atheist, which simply means I lack a belief in God. It was not a decision I came to easy, but I've studied every religion, every ancient holy text, and I've come to the conclusion there is no sufficient evidence that a God exists. It doesn't mean that I'm evil and immoral, that I eat babies, or that I'm some sort of satanic culty. In fact, since I don't believe in the supernatural, it would be rather silly to say I worship a fictional character that is said to be created by the supernatural. Many people, such as myself, continue believing in God even after we're presented with the true origins and undeniable facts of the holy books and religions. We believe that we have felt His presence, or that we can tell by our feelings and emotions that He must be real. It takes quite a bit of learning, letting go of fear, and an insatiable desire for truth at all costs to get where I am today. Science has actually proven through various studies that many times we will deny truth and logic and reason due to how we feel. Our feelings will always triumph even when they're wrong. So keep that in mind. It wasn't an easy journey at all, but I have learned that the quote, "There is no higher God than truth," spoken by Gandhi, is more than ever true. It is heartbreaking when you first consider that there is no one sitting up in the sky watching over things, looking out for us, ensuring everything will be okay. But it actually makes more sense to consider there's not, though, because there's a lot less unanswered questions, in my opinion. I mean, if there is a God and He cares more about helping Tim Tebow win a football game than He does stopping the witch burnings of children in Africa, then He's not a God I want to worship anyhow. Especially since the children are being burned alive because His book says thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. Kind of reminds me of the Salem witch burnings held by the Puritans, or the Inquisitions and Crusades that were brought to us via the infallible Catholic Church. You know, the same church that opposes women's reproductive rights while demanding exemption from the law when its clergy rapes little boys. Somehow birth control is more immoral than child rape. This alone should piss you the fuck off. Are you not paying attention? A jealous, tyrannical, evil dictator is the Christian God, okay? In the Bible, He committed murder and genocide galore. He even slammed babies against rocks, committed infanticide, and demanded praise for it. The following are just a few examples of the atrocities committed by God Himself, and I got them straight from the Bible. And before I begin, let me answer the common question, what if I'm wrong? I will tell you this, even if the Christian God is proven to be real, I will burn in a hot, eternal hell before I worship Him. The morality in my baby toe contains more morality than He possesses in His supposedly omni-everything being. We're going to start by talking about human sacrifice. In Genesis 22, 1 through 18, God commands Abraham to sacrifice his son. Of course, in the end, the son is saved. So many Christians are proud of this story, and they reference it as like a presupposition to the Jesus story. Well, I tend to see it from the son's perspective, okay? Can you imagine your father traveling with you to a mountain, strapping you down, raising his sword to thrust into you and sacrifice you to a voice he heard in his head? If you saw this story today on the news, would you not be glad if someone stopped the man? If someone removed that child from the home and from the care of that parent? You wouldn't think twice about that. Imagine the psychological ramifications of such an event on the child. In Exodus 13:2, God commanded every firstborn that opens a womb to be sacrificed to Him. I don't understand why Christians continuously tell me God is pro-life and that there's no human sacrifice in the Bible. There most certainly is human sacrifice, and He most certainly is not pro-life. It is evident from the text here that consecrate meant burning sacrifice. In Judges 11, 29 through 40, a man offered to sacrifice the first thing that came out of his house to greet him, if only God would let him win this war. The first thing to come out and greet him was his daughter, and she was so happy to see him she was shaking tambourines. Supposedly, he was in anguish over this, but sacrificed her anyway, for a promise to the Lord is a promise to the Lord, the good book says, and she died a virgin. In Joshua 7:15, God says, He has set apart some people simply for destruction, and they will be burned with fire, along with all they have, for they have broken a covenant with the Lord. My question is, why the fuck would you create people you knew in advance were going to suffer in such terrible ways? You would create beings capable of pain and anguish just to cause them pain and anguish? Sick and twisted. In 1 Kings 13:1 and 2, he commanded them to sacrifice all priests who came to burn incense to pagan shrines, and gets excited that bones will be burned on the altar. In Ezekiel 21:33 through 37, God says they will become fuel for the fire, and that their blood will flow throughout the land. In Deuteronomy 13:13 through 19, an entire town is burned and sacrificed as a torch unto the Lord. And the Bible says over and over in several places that unbelievers should be killed. So much for tolerance. Now I could go on human sacrifice, but we're going to move on to the next topic, which is rape. In Judges 21:10 through 24, the women are not only raped, but repeatedly raped. No wonder Santorum believes it's a gift from God. God commanded these sick fuckers to kill and rape an entire town, and then when they wanted more virgins, they hid beside the road to kidnap and rape more. Tell me how this is good and moral again? In Numbers 31:7 through 18, it becomes very clear that Moses and his God approve of rape and murder. Deuteronomy 20:10 through 14, God approves of rape and murder yet again, and even slavery. We can find some laws of rape in Deuteronomy 22:28 through 29, where it says, and I quote, "If a man is caught in the act of raping a young woman who is not engaged, he must pay 50 pieces of silver to her father. Then he must marry the young woman he raped because he has violated her, and he will never be allowed to divorce her." So tell me this. When your daughter gets raped, are you going to tell her that she is now defiled property, according to the Bible, and make her marry her rapist? Well, that's what you consider moral, right? Anyone who would force a rape victim to marry her attacker is a goddamn lunatic. In Deuteronomy 22:23 through 24, God says you must kill the rape victim and the rapist if the victim is not a virgin. The victim for being outside of the town gates where no one can hear her scream as if she had a choice, and the rapist for defiling another man's property. 2 Samuel 12:11 through 14 is one of the sickest passages in the entire Bible. God himself actually leads the innocent victims to the attackers, and then he kills a child. God led victims to their attackers. Why on earth would you serve such a monster? In Deuteronomy 21:10 through 14, God gives his men permission to rape female captives. In Judges 5:30, it states that there must be a damsel or two for each man as spoils of war. Women were spoils of fucking war. Exodus 21:7 through 11 states and gives the terms on how a man can sell his own daughter into sex slavery, which means the father chooses to offer up his daughter without her consent to a man who will continuously rape her and force her to do his bidding. God approved immorality that many folks believe is good, and yet they would oppose the practice if someone tried to do it today. In Zechariah 14:1 through 2, God not only allows rape and plunder, but he assisted in it. Now, I'm not going to do all the work for you. You see, you need to write down some of these verses and go read them yourself. You will quickly find that God commits genocide. Men, women, children, infants, it doesn't matter. He is not pro-life in the least. These verses are about capital punishment, and these are just a few. Deuteronomy 17:12, Exodus 22:17, Leviticus 20:13, Leviticus 20:27, Exodus 21:15, Leviticus 20:9 and 10, Leviticus 21:9, Exodus 22:19, 2 Chronicles 15:12 and 13, Zechariah 13:3, Deuteronomy 13:13 through 19, Deuteronomy 13:7 through 12, Deuteronomy 22:20 through 21, Deuteronomy 17:2 through 5, Leviticus 24:10 through 16, Deuteronomy 13:1 through 5, Deuteronomy 18:20 through 22, Romans 1:24 through 32, Numbers 1:48 through 51, Exodus 31:12 through 15. Now, the next four are just plain stupid reasons to murder someone, okay? 2 Kings 2:23 and 24, 1 Samuel 6:19 and 20, 1 Kings 20:35 and 36, 2 Samuel 6:3 through 7. The next verses are about murdering children. Isaiah 14:21, Hosea 9:11 through 16, Ezekiel 9:5 through 7, Exodus 12:29 and 30, Jeremiah 51:20 through 26. Now note here that after God promises the Israelites a victory against Babylon, the Israelites actually get their asses whooped in the next chapter. So much for an all-knowing, all-powerful God, huh? Leviticus 26:21 through 22. Isaiah 13:15 through 18. The next verses are just miscellaneous murders you can find in the Bible. Judges 15:14 through 15. Acts 5:1 through 11. 1 Samuel 15:2 and 3. Jeremiah 48:10. Joshua 19:47. Jeremiah 15:1 through 4. Ezekiel 35:7 through 9. Exodus 23:23. Joshua 8:1 through 29. Joshua 6:20 and 21. 1 Kings 14:9 through 16. Judges 20:48. 2 Kings 19:35. Exodus 32:26 through 29. Joshua 7:19 through 26. Numbers 25:1 through 9. 1 Kings 18:36 through 40. Jeremiah 50:21 and 22. Judges 18:27 through 29. And this, folks, is just the beginning. In future videos, I will be talking about God-approved slavery, contradictions in the Bible, how Jesus never came to abolish the Old Testament laws, and much, much more. I hope you will join me no matter what your beliefs are. Perhaps you can learn that it is perfectly possible to be good without God. In fact, without God, you don't have to be a racist, a bigot, a homophobic asshole, and much, much more. So you are in all actuality better without God's crazy hatreds to guide you.